In this video, we'll look at matching questions. Matching questions are automatically graded like multiple choice, completion, and true-false questions. But they take a little more planning. A matching question is typically a set of questions for which students must identify the corresponding answer choices from a list. Before we start creating a matching question, it's helpful to understand the following terms. Matching choices, the options that appear after the text of the questions. These could be text or images. Answers, the letters that appear before the matching choices. Questions, the item to be matched to the choices and which are numbered. These terms will be helpful in the matching question dialog box. Matching questions appear differently depending on whether they're part of an online assignment or a printed test. On an online assignment, matching questions appear as a series of multiple choice questions. In this example, potassium is the question, and the answers and matching choices appear below the individual question. On a printed test, the answers and matching choices are grouped together under the instructions. The questions appear below the instructions and choices. When creating a matching question, you have options on how the questions and the matching choices pair up. The simplest arrangement is one in which the number of choices and questions are equal and each of the choices is only used once. In this example, notice that there are 3 matching choices or answers and 3 questions. Also, notice that each of the answer choices is only used once. Let's see how to create this question. We'll begin by clicking the New Question button. Then we'll select Matching. First, we'll write the question text, which is also the instructions for the question. We want students to match the chemical symbols with the element name. So we'll type, match the symbol with the element. Next, we need to change the number of choices. Notice the checkbox next to the number of choices field. This is checked by default so you can enter text choices. However, suppose that you had an image with the choices labeled. Say, for example, that you had a map of the Earth with the continents labeled A through G. You could clear this checkbox and insert the image instead of using the text so students could label the map. Let's set the number of choices to 3. After we decrease the number of choices, notice that they're in 2 columns. Since there are only 3 choices, this looks a bit strange. Let's change the number of columns to 1. Now we're ready to enter the choices. Remember that the choices are the options that appear after the text of the question. For our matching question, these are the chemical symbols for potassium, sulfur, and silver. Let's enter those symbols in each of the matching choices. Next, we're ready to enter the matching pairs on the Questions and Answers tab. But before we do that, we want to make a note of which letter corresponds to which matching option. For example, A corresponds to the chemical symbol for silver. We'll need the letters, which are the answers, to set the matching pairs. Let's click the Questions and Answers tab. First, let's change the number of questions to 3 since each of the answers will have 1 corresponding match. Now, in the question column, we'll enter the text of the individual questions, which in this example is the names of the elements. So we'll enter 1 element name in each question. It's also a good idea to put the questions in a different order than the answers. Next, we'll enter the letter of the answer that matches the question. In this case, potassium is answer C. Sulfur is answer B. And silver is answer A. Let's click OK to save the question. Now we have a question with 3 matching choices and 3 questions, and all the choices are used once. In our previous example, there were 3 matching choices and 3 questions, and each matching choice was used once. To make a matching question more difficult, we can write it so that not all the matching choices are used. In this example, we are asking students to classify elements into 3 categories: metal, metalloid, or nonmetal. But we don't want every one of these categories to be used. Notice that we put a note in the question text that not all the classifications will be used. Let's go to the Questions and Answers tab. Notice that on the Questions and Answers tab, we only have two questions, one with an answer of B and another answer of A. So there is not a match for C. We've created a matching question where every choice has a match and another where only two of the three choices are used. Now, let's look at a matching question where the choices are used more than once. In this example, we want students to match colors to some items from nature. We have three matching choices, each a different color: blue, yellow, and white. Students will be able to use the colors multiple times to match them to the items. We've added a note in the directions, letting students know they can use the choices more than once. Now, let's go to the Questions and Answers tab to see how to reuse choices. On the Questions and Answers tab, we've set the number of questions to 4, one more question than we have choices. Notice that answer C, which is white, is used twice. It's that simple. You could also set up questions where some choices are used multiple times and others are not used at all. One other note about a matching question. When a matching question is in a test like this one is, you can specify the number of questions to be used in a specific test. So if you had a large matching group with 10 questions, you could choose to show just the first 5 questions in the matching group. This setting can be different from one test to another. You could have all 10 items in one test, but only the first 5 in another test. This setting is only available in a test. In a question set, all the matching questions in the group are displayed. After we click OK, you can see the 3 choices and the 4 questions. When importing matching questions into a learning management system, it's important to know that the question count might be different. In this example, where students have to match the chemical symbol with the element, there are 3 questions in the set. To see the difference in question counts, let's export this as a Blackboard Learn pool. First, we'll select the File menu. Then, Export. Then Blackboard Learn. And finally, Pool. In the Pools section of Blackboard, I'm going to click Import Pool. Then I'll click Browse Local Files and select the file I exported. Then I'll click Submit to upload the file. After the file imports, I'll click OK to return to the Pools page. Notice that the pool I just imported only shows one question. This is because Blackboard treats the group of matching questions as a single question. Let's click the drop-down next to the pool and select Edit to see what happened. In the pool, there's only one matching question. Let's click the drop-down next to that question and edit it. Notice that once we edit the matching question, it shows that there are 3 question items. If we scroll down, we'll see that this matching question contains 3 question-answer pairs that were 3 separate questions in our test. Here is the first question-answer pair. Here is the second pair. And here is the third pair. So even though Blackboard shows it as only one question, all 3 of the matching questions we created are there. And those are just some of the different kinds of matching questions you can create.